I know everybody wants a down week after Dwayne, so the question is, are the 3 new VCs and the 1 new Esper that we'll be getting this Wednesday worth your time, or are they something you can skip and pull accidentally later? Let's find out in this week's Should You Pull. Before we get started today, I want to shout out one of my patrons, Michelle C., who recently upgraded the amount that she is donating on Patreon, and I just want to give a huge thank you to her. And if you're interested in my Patreon, you can go check it out. The description is in the description box for this video, and basically every single week I put out a patron exclusive article that I write. Sometimes it's about my life, sometimes it's about War of the Visions or whatever else is going on. It's mostly about War of the Visions, so feel free to check that out, no pressure. I also want to thank War of the Vision Calc for all the information used in this video. They data mine and put everything in a beautifully tailored package online for us to look at, and it's where me and I think pretty much everybody that makes War of the Vision's content gets their information from. First up, let's talk about the MR card Tonberry, and this one is pretty interesting. It comes with an Esper as well, and it's obviously adorable, so that's pretty cool too. But the stats, well, they are MR stats, and you can see there's 0 magic on this card. It is just attack and some AP. Now remember, if you are a kind of a red mage or a rune knight or something like that, you get 50% of your max AP. If you are like a caster, like a mage, you're going to get 75% of your max AP when you start the battle. And then if you're everybody else, your typical melee or your gunner or whatever, you're going to get 18% of your max AP when you start a fight, and that includes the AP that the Espers are adding on to your total. So just think about if 25 AP mathematically is going to help you out, and then otherwise it's not really a very significant stat for a lot of situations. The bestowed ability for this card is Disable Resistance, which is really cool because I absolutely hate being disabled by Northwain's strike, the Agrius move. It's absolutely infuriating. But this actually has a very possibly increasing amount of relevance in global because we have Dwayne, and Dwayne has an ability called Darkness that can disable your opponents. So this could actually be a sneaky tech choice against Dwayne if we see people going heavy on disable builds. And then the party ability is Magic Resist, which is huge. So this is a really good party ability to have, and these MR cards, if you do class match or like the live PvP where you have like a limited cost in what you can equip, you can't underrate these MR cards. It's really important to look at them. However, if you have Fenrir, then this is going to be better. Obviously, you're going to get more magic resist. You're going to get more attack. You're going to get agility, which is an incredible stat. You get dexterity, and you get a pretty good amount. The bestowed ability is also kind of like situational. I mean, it's better overall than disable resist, but it's just not as applicable as some other bestowed abilities. But the 20% magic resist is obviously going to be way better than the Tonberry's 15%. Now, if you are dumb like me, then you didn't take your Fenrir to full awakening. I took mine to 3-star, so the Tonberry is actually better for me than the Fenrir is, and well, at least in terms of magic resist. So then you might consider getting it still. But for the most part, if you have Fenrir, then, and I know everyone's pretty pinched for Visior, if you have the means to go get whatever vision card you want whenever they come out, then you don't really need to watch this video. But if you are saving and you're trying to pick wisely, then I think if you have Fenrir, then obviously you should skip Tonberry. But it does come with an Esper, so we have to consider that as well. And the stats on the Esper are pretty so-so. So the card had no magic. It was an attack-based card. This is a magic-based Esper, and it's going to give you a very cool evocation spell that increases the modifier if there are 5 dead units, which is absolutely amazing. Now the skill tree, it's not spectacular, but it is good. You get magic attack up, which is always good, and then slash resistance up, which is always good, and then paralysis resistance, which is, again, it's kind of niche, but I always like stuff like that when you can get those resistances. Maybe that's good for PvE, maybe there's a unit that is paralyzing everybody in PvP, so it's good to know that it's out there. If you're a new player and you don't have a lot of Espers, this is a pretty easy way to get one, and then it has some relevant nodes. But again, if you have Fenrir, then you probably don't need this Tonberry. Next up is the first of our 2 UR cards, and this is Blossoms in the Dark, which is an absolutely beautiful card. Skahal and Lorelila, whatever her name is, she looks good too. The stats are super magic geared. You get a little bit of luck and a little bit of HP, but man, 186 magic, that's fine. No attack, that's important to see there. And you're not going to want to put this on an attacker anyway, because the bestowed ability is very, very specific. It's too specific. You can get 10% magic increase, but this won't even work on your Spellblades or your Rune Knights or anything, so this is really just for those mages. It has a vision ability, Ruinja, which is pretty strong. It's not Flare strong. It's almost as expensive as Flare, but it's strong. It's stronger than Blazega. It's stronger than Holy. It's stronger than most single target spells. So if someone doesn't have Flare, this is a big upgrade for them. And if they do have Flare, then they just have more powerful attacks. Now, something to consider is that Ruin is usually unaspected in terms of element, so that's actually really good against people with strong elemental resistances. As far as we know, with these vision abilities, they take the element of the user, so if you put this on Skahal, this is going to be a lightning element Ruinja. Just something to consider. But then for the party ability, you get the human killer on magic attacks only, and you get 25% of this. So that's huge. That's massive in PvP. It's massive for any PvE stage that has humans on it. This is a really big deal. Now, if that wasn't enough for you, we also have global exclusive bestowed abilities. Skahal gets 20% increased magic attack, which is massive, and then Lorelei, she gets 30% attack, which is fine. Our biggest comparison for this is the Trousseau card, and this one actually has more magic stat on it. Of course, you don't get the luck. You get dark resistance instead of the magic increased up, and I actually prefer the magic up because that's just going towards the role that you want your mage to have, which is to deal damage. Your mage isn't supposed to be like tanking dark units, so you don't really need the dark resistance in my opinion, but the magic attack is very comparable. So we get the magic human killer on the new card, and then the Trousseau has the same amount of magic attack, so together they make you super powerful, but one could be a substitute for the other in PvP at least, and that's something to consider. And then finally we have Downtime, and look, we got Glaciella and Cadia on their downtime. They're doing each other's hair. They've got those little basket of flowers. They can put those in the hair too. It's a good time. For the stats, we're looking at a kind of a more attack geared card, but it's got some magic as well, because obviously Cadia is a target for this. At least it's intended by the developers, not that you're going to do it. But for the bestowed ability, you get area resistance, which is always good. Now keep in mind that the AI is going to use attacks that are more powerful, so if you stack a bunch of area resistance, then your opponent's going to automatically use their single target attacks, making your area resistant people irrelevant, but that won't matter in certain maps and certain encounters. You're going to have enemies that will use AoE attacks. Against calculators, it's very good. Against, even Ruinstern coming in with a big hazard crash, whatever, then, that's obviously he's going to have to use his single target abilities. So, I mean, it is good, but you have to be aware of the weaknesses of that. The party ability, it's a hybrid ability. We get 12% ice resistance, and then we get some increased HP as well. And neither of those are super appealing to me, and I'll tell you why in just a second here. But first, we've got our global exclusive bestowed abilities. Glaciella gets defense. She gets 10 defense, so she can defend. And then Cadia gets decreased casting time 200, which is a joke. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I looked at Cadia's skills and none of them actually move up a tick from this. So it literally does nothing. It does nothing to her unless you have an alternate, a supplemental way to reduce your casting time, like the strongest alive VC. Then you could make her, regular spells go one tick faster. So I really don't see the point of this. It's really weird. You're not going to use this card on Cadia or use Cadia. So we had a Mobius collab hilariously as the game was dying, and I love Mobius. We all got this card. We all were able to max it if we wanted to, and what this card does is, well, it gives you ice resistance. It gives you more ice resistance than Downtime does. So if you're really worried about ice attacks, then you can use this card, and if you didn't play during the Mobius collab, then yeah, maybe Downtime is appealing to you because you want ice resist, and it is good to have resists at the ready in this game. And then otherwise, we've got Golem, who gives way more HP, and then Earth Resistance, and lots of HP on the card itself. So, you know, if you're really trying to stack HP, this is a card to do so. You don't necessarily need the hybrid. Of all the hybrids we've seen so far, this one's definitely my least favorite. Okay, we're talking should you pull? Let's do some pros and cons. Pros for Tonberry, you get 15% magic resist. That is incredibly solid on a VC, and it's definitely very applicable. Disable resist will be good for Dwayne and for Agrius, and you get an Esper, which is always nice. The cons, MR stats, bestowed ability is not always useful. That disable resist in a lot of matchups, it won't do anything, and it's going to clash with the maxed Fenrir, so a lot of people won't need this card. And then the Esper isn't a musket either, so I think really what it comes down to is you need to not have Fenrir to go pull the Tonberry, or you need to be a really big fan of Tonberries. For Blossoms in the Dark, well, this is the best in slot for Skahal. It's a great PvP card. It can replace Trousseau, and the way that I look at this is that if you never pulled Trousseau, or your Trousseau is very low level, then this could be your new mage card that you could max. You have this opportunity to max it, and that could be absolutely incredible for you. And in terms of PvP, you're literally getting a better card than Trousseau. You get magic on it, you get a new skill on it. Ruinja is super powerful. It can, you know, could be whatever element you need it to be, and I think that's all really, really great. You could even use this with Trousseau, but I see it more like you can't fit all magic cards necessarily. It's hard to do that and have a tank to protect all your little magicians, etc. So, cons, the ability can't be given to Mastery. What the? It's also very specific conditions in general, so this makes it a very inflexible card. As soon as you take out the member of your formation that can use this card, then the card is also, you know, unusable, so you need to be sure that you have the units for this and that you're going to want to use those units a lot, because that's the only time you'll use this card. And the party ability, it won't be as useful for PvE, so keep that in mind. If you are using this with all your mages and then you go and fight the two-headed dragon, then that's not going to help you with your magic attacks. For Downtime, well, you know, air resistance on a bestowed is interesting because we can actually stack it with the party abilities, we can stack it with other things. That's all great. Bruiser Glaciella could be a thing. I don't know, she can stack a lot of slash resist, so for her to have defense, you know, maybe you put Vow of Love on her and go against slash teams, and then the rest of your team can be safe to attack. And then elemental resists, you're safe to get those because those are good. I think that, you know, especially when we get mono element teams, which we will in the future, and if everyone's running like an ice team with Oron and Lastwell and another ice unit of your choice or whatever it is, then maybe you're really going to want ice resist cards, so this could be useful in that regard, but I don't think it's a reason to pull it right now. Okay, so the cons, Mask of Deceit and Titan. I could have talked about both of those. They both have abilities, bestowed abilities for Glaciella or for like a water unit with a spear, so those are both better cards for her, so you definitely want to use those instead. And then for Lorela, she needs more help than 30% attack. And then hybrid effect, and it's just an effect that we didn't need, I don't think, at least. So I mean, I'm really not big on this card. So kind of to summarize that, you know, for Tonberry, it's a great pickup if you don't have Fenrir leveled. For your Blossoms in the Dark, it's a good card, especially if you have Skahal or you don't have Trousseau. If you don't have Skahal, you do have Trousseau maxed, then you'd really consider not getting this. Or if mages aren't that important to your plan, then don't get this. And then for Downtime, unless you missed Mobius and you want Ice Resist, then don't get this because, you know, there's better cards to go get for Glaciella anyway, so I really don't see a purpose for this, but, you know, I'm happy to be wrong, so. And that's going to be it, but always remember that you have to make your own assessment and make your own decision. I'm just here to help you along that path. And I also wanted to mention, I used to talk about like, oh, what if you got this card to 2-star? What if you got this card to 3-star? I'm not going to do that anymore. If you really want a card and you have the Visior, and it doesn't take that much, then you can max any card with a guaranteed pull, and then the step up, and then max the card with Whimsy shops. And the shards appear in the shops way more often now, so it really is easy to max a card, and I really do recommend that you max a card that you like. In the long run, it's going to be way better that you've maxed cards than you haven't maxed cards, and I don't think that too many cards are relevant at 2 stars for me personally, so I just don't even see, I don't want to put that in my video anymore. I regret not maxing Fenrir, so if you feel comfortable taking a card to 2 stars, I think it's better to go to 2 than 3. I think the jump up isn't that big. So if you really want, you could pull a card and then pull the shop shards, or buy the shop shards, go to 2 stars, and then, you know, see how the experience is for you. But personally, I wouldn't do that. If you're gonna go in on a card, go all in and just get that card to max. All right, see you guys later.